Can't read the entire book from my audio because I don't read all of it. It skips around. But anyways, page 3, you have to get the book. Anyways, page 368, 365 of Thoreau. As soon as he was home from Wachusett, that's a mountain, I guess, Thoreau plunged back into writing. He had landed a major lecture engagement as the second speaker in a series at Philadelphia's prestigious Spring Garden Mechanics Institute. His first appearance outside New England, and it weighed on his mind. His topic, he announced, would be the wild, just the wild. The second in his planned suite of lectures carved out of the ballooning pages of Walking. He has something just called Walking. But plans for the big Western tour were not going well. He received only 2 nibbles from Akron, Ohio, and another from Hamilton, Ontario. In a flurry of letters, he tried to schedule them both for early January, while angling for more. 2 would hardly pay expenses, thus juggling dates for appearances in Providence and Nantucket, and trying to pin down yet another nibble from the Boston area that never materialized. We're talking about Thoreau's lecture series. Lecture business. His plans were still up in the air when he set off for Philadelphia on November 20th, a long day's journey. The early train to Boston, the express train to New York, connecting by candlelight to a third train across New Jersey, to the Camden Ferry across the Delaware River to Philadelphia, arriving at 10 p.m., 15 hours, Thoreau noted from Concord. It's pretty fast, I think, from those times. He has achieved some fame now from Walden, but he's trying to lecture now. Thoreau stayed in America's first capital for just 1 day. First thing in the morning, he headed to the State House, where the Declaration of Independence had been signed, and climbed to the top of the cupola to look over the city, though he preferred the squirrels bustling around his feet to the great historical sites. Do I prefer squirrels over? I'm very kind to squirrels. But I start by not running over them. Emerson had written ahead to ask a college friend, Philadelphia's Unitarian minister William Henry Furness, to show Thoreau around. Furness got Thoreau admitted to the National Academy of Sciences, where carpenters were adding 4 more stories to house the growing collections. Thoreau lingered over Morton's infamous collection of human skulls, whose crania measured the immutable scale of intelligence. The bigger the skull, the smarter the person, putting white men at the top. Do you think if you have a bigger skull, you're smarter? Of the American Philosophical Society, Thoreau noted that it was described, quote, as a company of old women, unquote. Of his lecture itself, he noted nothing, yet, quote, the wild, unquote, was of the deepest importance to him. As he scrawled across the title page, quote, I regard this as a sort of introduction to all I may write after. We're talking about an early ecologist, Henry David Thoreau. He's trying to save the rainforest. Furness, who could not attend, told Emerson that a parishioner's daughter said, quote, "The audience was stupid and did not appreciate him," unquote. Although Thoreau himself was, quote, "full of interesting talk," unquote, in the most, quote, "amusing intonations." To illustrate, Furness sketched a goofy Thoreau. Goofy. With staring eyes, pouting lips, a vanishing chin, scraggly hair, and an absurdly drooping nose like a tapir. Do you think he failed?
It doesn't matter.
Some people can write a good book like Walden and then they don't do so well in lectures.
Also, probably did, but they were not interested. They were motivated to make money. Yeah.
The audience was stupid. Well, that can happen. That's why we don't have an audience.
Maybe they thought where they can go to hunt the next time, the wild.
You think in 500 years we'll have an audience? Any discouragement, Thoreau may have felt in Philadelphia.
What happened to the wild?
Huh?
Look what happened to the wild. So how could they?
I'm interested now in this wild stuff. We go into the wild. We could go into the wild in Thoreau. We could go into reading about the wild in Thoreau.
Yeah,
Thoroughly. Thoreau. If you don't throw me out. Would you throw me out of Thoreau? Throw me out. If I read too much Thoreau. I could be thrown out with Thoreau. But it said goofy Thoreau. So it's appropriate that this reading be goofy. I just matched the book. Any discouragement Thoreau may have felt in Philadelphia was dispersed the next day in New York, where the ebullient and ever-supportive Greeley treated his newly published client like a celebrity. Now he's getting better treatment in New York. See? Thoreau was dazzled by the Crystal Palace, with its displays of everything from a column of solid coal 50 feet thick to iron and copper ores, sculptures and paintings innumerable, and 18th century armor from the Tower of London. Now he's got some class going. At Burnham's museum, he paused over Indian artifacts dug out of the mounds, towering camelopards or giraffes, not nearly so tall as Barnum claimed, scoffed Thoreau, the surveyor. You see, Barnum exaggerated his circus, probably. Barnum and Bailey Circus. And Thoreau, a surveyor, said he lied about the height of the giraffes. And Barnum's diorama of the world, which told the builder of a house at Walden that houses were pretty much the same the world over. Greeley introduced Thoreau to the Tribune staff before sweeping him off to the opera. Bellini's El Puritani, the Puritans. Since when did Bellini write the Puritans? I thought I had extensive erudition in music, but I didn't know that one. I'm a failure in opera. All the rage in Paris and Queen Victoria's favorite, my God, Bellini. As the page ushered them around the opera house to meet this group and that, Thoreau lost track of the social whirl. Greeley appeared to know and be known by everybody. Wow, Greeley was a good publisher to him, though. Greeley was good to Thoreau. So New York was better to Thoreau than Philadelphia. Back home there was no time to rest. In 2 weeks he was due in Provincetown, where he had promised to deliver an entirely new lecture. Quote, "What shall I profit?" That's along the lines of that quote, biblical quote. It says, what shall I profit a man if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul? Mark 8:36. What shall I profit? The debut of what became his most frequently delivered lecture and eventually his great polemic, quote, "Life without principle." That's a famous essay, Life Without Principle. I think it's in the portable Thoreau. This too, like, quote, Moonlight and The Wild, was a spin-off from Walking. So they all came from Walking. This third segment expanded on the failure to walk with a redemptive saunterer's eye. Do you ever fail to walk with a saunterer's eye? Do you saunter? Alone of all his lectures, Thoreau reserved these two, Walking or The Wild, and What Shall It Profit, to remain lectures, not moving them to publication until he was on his deathbed. All right, so these weren't published. For us to read, we can read them, but back then you couldn't read them. They were designed as a complementary pair, nature and humanity, which taken together gave voice to Thoreau's leading principles. Once he had asked, in the aftershock of Shadrach Minkin's escape, quote, "What is the value of any political freedom but as a means of moral freedom?" These two lectures were his answer. Quote, "Walking," unquote, advanced the freedom to step away from the demands of earning a living, to shape one's day as a dwelling wholly within the higher laws. This new lecture advanced the freedom to earn that living honestly, even poetically, to make the higher law one's daily bread. As his biblical title asked his audience, quote, "For what shall it profit a man if he should gain the whole world and lose his own soul?" Mark what? Mark? Do you know your Bible quotes by heart? How could you not know those? Mark 8:36. If you want to read that in Greek, we have it. I have the Greek Bible. All right, we're going to end with the Bible. That's the end of this page 367. We read about Thoreau's lecture series, going to Philadelphia, New York, and his talks. And he's giving TED Talks, I guess. Thoreau's TED Talks. Do you think they're as relevant now as back then in terms of things like the wild and the rainforest and global warming and all that stuff? Do you think people should think about, should they saunter when they're walking? I don't know. Those are the questions.